It's day 18 in the federal corruption trial against former probation commissioner John O'Brien. Up to now, prosecutors have been setting the stage for their star witnesses, and over the past week, jurors finally heard the arguments at the heart of the case. At the outset, Judge William Young told jurors political patronage is not a crime, that it's not necessarily illegal that former probation commissioner John O'Brien hired friends and family members of state legislators. But federal prosecutors charged that O'Brien and two co-defendants, Elizabeth Tavares and William Burke, broke the law with an elaborate scheme to make those patronage hires appear merit-based. Yesterday, former Supervisor Francis Wall testified that he manipulated the hiring process at O'Brien's request to push politically connected applicants to the top of the list. We would change scores, we would embellish, he told the court. And we did lie about the process being a fair process. When asked why, Wall said, O'Brien told him it was important that the process remain in effect to have a good relationship with the legislature. All right, my next guests have been closely monitoring this case. Frank Phillips writes for the Boston Globe, and Jack Sullivan is a reporter for Commonwealth Magazine. Welcome. We've been talking about this on and off for the last couple of weeks, and originally it seems that they were just pointing out that patronage exists. And the defense kept saying, well, yeah, I mean, and how come so-and-so isn't on trial and so-and-so isn't on trial? But this is more pointed now, right directly to the heart of the matter at John O'Brien. Is it sinking in, do you think?
I think it is, Emily. I think that the prosecution probably scored their best results so far with Franny Wall. He basically put it right in the commissioner's office yesterday and today. And a lot of his testimony was devastating to the defense, really devastating. So they have their work cut out for him to try to discredit him, but it's a tough slog for him.
We weren't in court, but there apparently was some muttering there yesterday. Someone was going, liar, liar. I mean, Francis Wall has immunity to testify, so, I mean, is his credibility an issue?
Of course it will be, and they're going to, the defense is going to really try to tear him down. But he really did peel back and put out a comprehensive, really show a comprehensive plan here of what went on behind the scenes. I wrote about this in 2001 when this was going on and they were changing the law, and there was a lot of concern about it by the judiciary. They wouldn't stand up and talk about it.
Make that clear. They changed it. They took the power away from the judiciary and gave it to the legislature to run the probation department, which never made sense when you really think about it.
It was an absolute outrage then. But because the legislature and Tom Finneran wanted it and they controlled the budget, they didn't, the judges and even the Supreme Judicial Court, which controls the judiciary, would not speak out on it. And Swift, Jane Swift was the governor. She was in a weak state at that point, and she just signed it without, without really making any effort to look into it and find out that this was going to lead to this kind of corruption.
You know, the mystery in all of this is that since patronage is not illegal, well, A, why isn't it? But B, why manipulate it to this extent when really you could have done it without doing that? Why did they have to do that?
They were frustrated with Barbara Deutsche O'Cara was her name. She was the chief of the trial courts. And she was trying to bring diversity to the courts. And she maybe wasn't doing it in a politically delicate way, and that was infuriating the reps. And every rep has and state senator has district courts, and they want to use that, and it's a very, great patronage place for them. She wouldn't listen to them, and there was sort of a backlash against her. And Finneran took a hold of it, and he knew that this is a great way to give out jobs and control through his friend O'Brien, could control a lot of votes in the legislature when he really needed it.
And it's not actually about patronage. It's that's continually the statement that you hear from prosecution, from the judge, from defense. Patronage is not illegal. One of the problems that O'Brien has, and what the prosecution is trying to present, is probation jobs are supposed to be merit-based, more so than anything else. It's not like the MDC where you can get some kids, some legislator's kid a job as a lifeguard or something like that. These are public safety jobs. I mean, their pension classification alone tells you that there is some serious level of experience that's needed to it. So what they did was not only did they violate this meritocracy that is supposed to determine who the best candidate is, they also embellished scores. They also changed answers. They made sure that the person that they selected, even if it wasn't the best qualified candidate, was perceived as the best qualified.
But, I mean, Frank, as you've been writing about this, I mean, they all did it. Therese Murray, Bob DeLeo. I mean, everybody basically admits that they put candidates forward. I mean, aren't they complicit in a sense because they knew?
Did they
know?
know?
Floated a candidate, they were going to get the job.
As Jack says, that's not illegal. You're a state rep. Somebody wants a job.
Sure,
you write a letter.
It's arm twisting. It's quid
well,
pro quo.
if they knew, and obviously I think the federal prosecutors would have indicted those individuals if they knew that this manipulation and fraud was going on. I think it's also interesting that the great political empire is striking back, and they're trying to get us to write stories that look at Carmen Ortiz, the U.S. attorney. She got her job through Ted Kennedy. It was a patronage. Well, it's not the same. There wasn't the fraud, and there wasn't the shenanigans that went on with Finner and O'Brien getting this fraudulent system in place. She was vetted and put into place. There's a difference between patronage and fraudulent.
And that's
yeah, go ahead.
And that's where I think Franny Wall is really helping the prosecution and hurting defense, because he's laying it out that there was, like Frank talked about, this undercurrent, this almost criminal enterprise, which is what they have to prove with the racketeering. When he talks about overhearing the conversations with DeMacy, with DeLeo, with Finneran, and Finneran coming out with his arm around O'Brien and saying, you know, I want you to be a proponent of patronage, and you know, and yes, there is that strong-arming aspect to it. And you're right, and that's what defense is asking. How come my guy's the only one here?
Yeah, they're all in on it. I find that part of it shocking, too.
Yeah,
but did they know? I mean, that's the question.
Of course they knew. I'm shocked.
For a grand jury couldn't find out they knew. All the whole
well, I think
FBI couldn't find out they knew.
I think part of the problem there too, though, is that in order to indict lawmakers, they would have to say the legislature is a criminal enterprise because this is racketeering. Nobody's going to want to try to take that one on.
Wink, wink. Yeah, they didn't know. All right, Frank Phillips, Jack Sullivan, thanks a lot for joining us.